I've been kicked out of a lot of bars in my life. I feel like that didn't need to be said to be understood. When you get kicked out of a bar the night of, you're like, whatever happened to justice? And the next morning you're like, nah, they were right. I didn't belong anywhere at that point. But recently I got 86 from my local gun range. That's about what that gets every time I say it. I got a gun, and I've been going to this gun range, and I get this poster that's like the outline of the idea of a person. You know what I'm talking about? Like, there's no race, there's no gender, it's just like a human-shaped target. And I practice shooting this poster in the leg, because I'm gonna get so good at non-lethal shots that every police precinct in the country is like, wow, it's possible. And to be honest, I'm getting pretty good. Which I realize is weird to say, because it's like me going, hey, wherever you're sitting right now, I could probably get you. So I have a tough relationship with this gun range, because like the first time I went there, the guy who owns it was like, hey, have you shot a lot before? And I was like, no, I just bought my gun. He's like, okay, well, the first rule of firearms is you never want to point your weapon at someone you're not willing to kill. And then, as a joke, I put the gun in my mouth. And he was like, this is a liability issue. You can't do that. The other reason I'm on thin ice is because I'm the only black person at my gun range. It's like a lot of white dads. And I was drinking coffee in the lobby one day and I overheard them talking to each other. They're like, go ask him. Go ask him. And so they elected a white official who came up to me and was like, hey, me and the fellas are wondering why you own a gun. And I told them the truth. I was like, well, black people were enslaved, indigenous people were relocated, Japanese people were interned, and Latino children are being put into camps. I have a gun so that the government ever comes for me like that, I can take at least one of them with me. And the white guy said, huh. And then he turned back to his friends and he repeated it, and he looked back at me and he said, we think we agree, but when you say it, it sounds bad. Because nothing scares Second Amendment conservatives more than a black person who thinks they're right. So I have this tough relationship, but it's going okay. And one day I'm there, and I'm shooting my poster in the leg, and this guy shows up, and instead of shooting at the outline of the idea of a person, he shoots at a picture of an Arab guy in a turban. And I was like, hey man, why are you doing that? And he said, because I don't like Arabs. And racism's got me fucked up to the point where I found his honesty refreshing. I was like, oh, a bigot who believes in himself. That's nice. And I was like, that's not very cool, man. And he was like, whatever, it's freedom of expression. It's the First Amendment. I can shoot at whatever I want. And I think we all know that that is not how that works. Like, the First Amendment is why I can't be arrested for doing that. It hasn't stopped me from thinking he's an asshole, but I don't have time to explain that. So now if someone says some fuck shit and claims the First Amendment, I say worse fuck shit. So he's like, I'm allowed to shoot at this Arab guy. It's my First Amendment right. And I said, that's interesting because your mom's a whore. And he was like, you can't talk to me like that. I said, First Amendment, pick a side. And he was so bad. He's like, I'm allowed to shoot at whatever I want. And then I was upset. All the white dads were like, he is allowed. That is the First Amendment. And I was like, do you guys actually believe that? And they said, yes. And then I left. And 3 weeks later, I went back to the gun range. But instead of getting the outline of the idea of a person, I brought from home a massive poster of Ronald Reagan eating Jellybeans. And I started practicing shooting Ronald Reagan in the leg, and the guy saw it. He was like, you can't do that. And I was trying to be cool, so I kept my gun at Reagan, and I turned to him, and I said, you have your enemies, and I have mine. And then I went to shoot Reagan in the leg, and I missed and hit him right in the face. And I was like, that's for Jodie Foster. And he was so mad at me. He's like, you can't be doing that. You can't shoot at the president. I was like, you said you can shoot at whatever you want. He says, this is different. That's the government. You're supposed to respect the government. I said, what the fuck do you think the Second Amendment is for? And then a guy with a shotgun came in and politely asked me to leave. And I went home, and I went home. It was a busy day, so I put my Ronald Reagan poster with a hole in the face in the front seat and went in the carpool lane all the way home. I was like, if a cop kills me and I get pulled over, this is pretty funny. But I go home, and I had a conversation with myself, like, why did this bother you so much? And I was like, well, it's because the 13th Amendment is the reason that I'm free. The 14th Amendment is the reason I can be here with y'all. And the 15th Amendment is why I can vote. And I'm tired of people using the laws that define my personhood as an excuse to be an asshole. And the other thing I realized is that I need to start practicing shooting people in the torso. So I Google searched the second closest gun range to me, and I went there, and as soon as I walked in, there was just filled with black people. And I was like, what is happening? And it turns out this gun range is owned by 2 black veterans, and when you walk in, there's a huge American flag, and next to it there's a sign that says, "We keep ourselves safe." And I was like, this is awesome. And they're like talking to me, they're like, "Hey, what are you here for?" And I was like, "I'm here to practice murder," because that's the only place you can say. And they're like, "Oh, where do you live?" And I told them, and they're like, "Why don't you go to the gun range closer to your house?" And I was like, "Well, I got kicked out of that one." And if you tell people at a gun range you got kicked out of a gun range, everybody's hands go straight to their hip. And I was like, "I got kicked out for shooting posters of Ronald Reagan." And they're like, "Oh, man, we sell those here."